I loved him and his wife's stuff, man. I was a huge fan of that fucking show.
Oh man, I mean,
I mean, going all the way back to before you,
hmm
back when I was a kid, I watched Thunderbirds Are Go,
hmm
Captain Scarlet,
Captain
and
Scarlet was. I mean, how screwed up of a premise is that for a kid show? This guy has to painfully die every episode. You're just like, and all those paintings, those awesome paintings of like quicksand and like snakes biting him and him falling off of a building. You're just like,
I got to tell you, I for years couldn't understand why there wasn't a fucking action figure
right?
because those paintings looked like it was trying to sell me
hmm
action figures.
Totally.
So I would go looking for it. Never heard of it, such a thing.
I think
And
they tried to relaunch it. I don't know, like in the mid 2000s or something. I think there are some floating around.
they did in it was towards the end of the 90s, early 2000s. They did a the first CG
hmm
animated,
Yeah.
and it was the actual family doing it.
Really? I
And
didn't. I thought it was out of their hands at that point. That's great.
no,
I
I
didn't know
think
that.
his son was involved with that because supermarionation was still used in it. And anything that has supermarionation is usually associated
That's them. Okay.
with the Andersons. And I do know that the new iteration of Thunderbirds Are Go is amazing
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the
I've watched some of it.
the sets and excuse me, a lot of the effects in it are miniatures,
hmm
and the marionettes are no longer marionettes; they're CG and they're put
Right.
in.
hmm
But I freaking love that show. I watch it regularly on Amazon. I also contributed when they were first doing it. I became a contributor
That's
to
awesome.
their Kickstarter.
Yeah. I mean, anything that they did, you got to look at that because like people just don't understand the amount of effort and time and craft that went into putting on those shows. I mean, everything that they did. What was the other one? It was the one about the kid, the genius kid. Kid
Oh, Jimmy Neutron.
yeah, and then there was oh geez, what was the captain before? What was the hell? Fireball XL 13.
Yeah, that was real. Yeah, that was way
Yeah, you're
before.
talking like everything that you saw was built, and then they filmed it multiple times in pyro and all this stuff. And it's like, man,
It was very Japanese the way they did it
oh, I mean,
because the Japanese were the ones who kind of started that shit in the 50s,
yeah, yeah,
and then Jerry Anderson saw how they were doing it and he just replicated it, and all of his shows were these miniatures. And
amazing,
by the way, I just watched the documentary on Amazon about Galaxy Quest.
nice,
And those aliens, when they walk, that weird walk they do,
yeah,
that was the throwback to Captain Scarlet, with
that's
the way
awesome.
that the marionettes would walk
Yeah,
into a
it'd be
room and arms would move
let's
like,
go over here.
yeah. And they do those great cutaways in the original Captain Scarlet and shit, where you'd see the marionette hand, plastic hand, moving towards something, and it would cut away to a human hand pushing a button,
Yeah,
pulling a trigger.
I
And
mean, and you look at like so Space 1999 and UFO and all those where it's like I'm doing the same exact thing, but I'm putting human
human
actors in
beings
place
instead
of
of
the puppets.
using miniatures and marionettes.
Amazing,
It's the same
amazing
process.
stuff. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's like yeah, growing up on watching that shit, and of course that eagle right there is not a model kit that was bought. That was scratch built by my buddy Brian Ray,
Nice.
and he gave it to me. The only last thing that needed to be done was those exhaust ports,
Uh huh.
and I added those on myself. He
Nice.
instructed me to get some of the disposable, what do you call them, plastic champagne flutes from Walmart.
Uh huh. And then cut
The
them and put
plastic.
them on.
Well, because the tips are already short. Well, I didn't get they didn't have champagne flutes. Those are actually wine glasses. So if you get up real close, it's just a little bit bigger than what you should have, but it
hmm
looks fucking good
It
right there
does
on the
look
wall.
great. That's awesome.
And it's funny because I actually have the model kit. I'm not going to reach for it. It's on the inside of the desk. But I actually have the model kit, the official model kit. Haven't built it yet. I've got several kits here still needing built. I got the Lost in Space Jupiter 2.
Nice.
I mean, you used to have like this great collection, and I never really collected stuff except for comics. And you remember when I sold them all in '86? Because you and I were friends in '86, right?
Yep.
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 And
Yeah, I mean, all the way till it probably, you know, I left to go to school in, what was it, 90? So,
No, you left after I left.
yeah.
Because you were still home when I left for the Army. And
Yeah.
then you took off that fall.
Yeah, exactly. I just went down for fall semester at VCU.
Yep. And I had just graduated basic training and was on break with John and Patrick at their house. And I'm like, "Where's Matt?" And he goes, "Oh, he left, man, for school." Because I was like wanting to get a hold of you. I was wanting to get a hold of Brian Embry and have the gang hang out one last time, because I was pretty sure I would never come back to Virginia back then. And but it was, I at least got to see those two fuckers before I left. So, and I think I tagged you on Patrick's page. I was like,
yeah,
you two need to become friends again.
Yeah, I'm still kind of adverse to Facebook, and it's funny because it's like I joined Facebook, when it was first, coming out as like a thing, and then I just kind of gave up on it. I don't know. It was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, you didn't really need it.
Neglected. I was like, I check it out here and there and whatnot, but not.
Yeah, you had no drive. Because personally, I could give a shit about it in a lot of ways, but I like the fact that it's a sounding board where I get to say some of the shit that I say, but I also like the fact that I can keep tabs on members of my family and my friends, and that's primarily why I have it.
The stalking.
Well, but I just like to know what's going on with my nieces and nephews in particular, because I don't really care about my siblings. I love them, but I really don't want to interact with them. I really love checking in on my nieces and nephews, seeing what the hell they're doing, and then of course checking up with my friends, seeing what they're doing, and why they're not talking to me.
Mainly that's the thing that's so funny. I would get on Facebook, and because at some points it'd be like, I ain't checked it in like 6 months, and then these people are like, "Hey, what's up? Blah blah blah." Well, why aren't you answering me? Well, fuck you then. Why? Fuck you. I'm not gonna be here for anymore. It's just like this progression over 6 months of like them arguing with themselves because I wasn't checking it. It's like,
yeah,
like, I'm sorry. I mean, I remember back in the day, you could go without talking to somebody for like months, and you'd be like, "Oh, we're picking up right where we left off."
And if you're an introvert, that's just how you do things.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually find I socialize more with Facebook than I would in real life. And it works for me because I really don't want to socialize much. I don't want to go to parties. I don't want to, hey, we're going to have a gathering. I'll have fun.
Can you videotape it?
Yeah, videotape. Send me pictures.
Send me a video of it. I'll Skype in.
Yeah. I've actually offered to do that. It's like, because I didn't want to go to a con once, and I said, just put me on the table on the desktop.
Yeah, put an iPad there, and you're.
Hey, stop touching my books.
Yeah. Don't bend the corners.
And like people be like, is that thing talking to me? Yeah, I'm talking to you, you monkey.
Buy something or get away from my table.
Or as you would say, you stupid goob.
Yep, the goob.
The goob. And yeah, because like I have nicknames through friends that other people don't call me. Like nobody, only you called me a goob, and Matt calls me fuckface.
Of course.
and I respond to it when hey, fuckface. I always turn, yeah, what? And it's just it's weird. Like John Alderink from Marvel, amazing colorist friend of mine, really good artist too. He calls me Gare Bear.
Nice.
Like the first time we ever hung out, he says, "You're just a big old bear. You're my Gare Bear." John Alderink. I love that guy. He seems to have kind of left comics sort of. Because he's a dad now and he's trying to support his family, so he's doing stuff that actually brings in money.
Yeah, right.
You don't do comics if you want to make a lot of money. I mean, you can eventually, but people go, "Man, you must be killing it with some of those books. You got a bestseller." I'm like, "No, man. I'm a struggling artist, sometimes starving. That's why I eat a lot of carbs and got fat.
Well, plus you're chained to a desk for 1,000,000 hours a day.
Yeah. And it's like, but like with, I was so excited when I saw you on Facebook. The first time, I'm like, fuck yeah. Because you and I had talked back in the 2000s when you were, I finally got a hold of you on a group phone. You shared a phone with a bunch of people, and it was like, I just couldn't seem to get a hold of you.
Sleep pit.
I think that was 2004. No, might have been probably 2002.
I think it was between two, because me and Bobby moved back from New York after September 11th, and then we were in Richmond. Yeah, so it would have been 2002 or 2003, one of those. Because then me and Bobby moved out of the slave pit in late 2003. So I think the slave pit was GWAR's compound, where we had all our, practice spaces, rehearsal spaces, all that stuff,
Yeah, because I want to point out, it's like you always said you were going to work for GWAR. And you used to have those little muscle men figures.
You mean these guys?
Yeah, those fucking guys. And that's how I learned who GWAR was. And I'm like, GWAR, what the fuck is that? And I tell people all the time, it's like I said, when I saw GWAR, I wanted nothing to do with them. And then I heard them, and I'm like, actually, you know what? I kind of like that, and because it's punk.
Yeah.
And I like punk. So you're the sole reason I ever listened to GWAR. And I got Zoe. I got Zoe listening to GWAR.
Oh, awesome.
And but you said early on you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean,
man, I want to work for them.
I had no ideas of that I could do that. It was more like I wanted to do something like GWAR. Like at first, I remember even the first couple of times I saw any photos or anything of it, I was inspired to go into my dad's shop and sit there and work on costume pieces out of cardboard. Little did I know at the time I was basically doing what they were doing. It was like hands-on, whatever you had laying around is what you made a costume out of, And it kind of became simpatico, because when I went down to go to school there, I'd already met Hunter Jackson, who was one of the guys who had helped create GWAR, and Don Draculich, and became friends with them before I even got down to go to school.
And of course, you showed him your artwork, I hope.
Well, that was the thing. Once Hunter saw that I actually could draw and stuff like that, we started working on some of the concepts that I had flushed out in high school. He had a wrestling comic, I had a wrestling comic, so we jammed them together and created a project together that we did a self-published comic at that point. And we just started making more comics. We had tons of, ideas that we had flushed out, but GWAR sort of ended up sucking me in pretty quick. It was one of his fears was that
become a slave.
Yeah. Oh no, all of our time's going to be devoted to doing this versus doing all those projects that we had originally had started. But we, throughout those years, then we spearheaded. Well, I won't take all the credit, because he actually spearheaded. Hunter Jackson did Slave Pit Funnies, which was GWAR's collective comic. It was all the artists of GWAR contributing GWAR stories and other crazy ideas that weren't necessarily GWAR stories. Me and him had been going to all these conventions. We were doing Dragon Con, and we did the New York Comic Con for years and years. We were going to all these things, and we'd met Rob Horan, who was owner of Cirrus Comics, the comics, and at the time he had Cry for Dawn and Animal Mystic and all these awesome books that he was perpetuating at the time, and he was looking through all my sketchbooks, and he saw this Sun and Moon character, and he was like, "Man, I want to develop this. I want to develop this." And so I ran and I told Hunter that, and Hunter was like, "We're going to work on a comic right now." And we went and we did that, and we ended up putting it in Slave Pit Funnies, because we're like, why would we give it to him when we got our own thing, But I really wish I'd given it to him in retrospect. It was like Slate Pit Funnies wasn't the home for that comic, for that strip. It was me and Hunter had no reservations, understanding that at certain points, GWAR, especially in the 90s, GWAR wasn't that marketable of a thing because the sexual aspect of it pushed anybody who had any type of money.
Boundaries. Yep.
Yeah, it was like, oh no, you can't. How am I supposed to market this to mom and pop stores and do all that stuff? But that strip was marketed towards that thing, so it didn't fit. It didn't fit in there at all. Here we had giant dicks and all this spew and blood all over the place, and then we had this kind of kiddie version of essentially it was two guys trying to ask a girl out on a date. That was the entire strip, But yeah, so anyways, that's sort of the intro. Like it originally, we never even thought ourselves as comic book producers, because we were just like, this is a way to tell GWAR stories and to flush out things we can't do on stage because of budget or because of
it helps develop the characters and give a lush history or background to that character. And I like that idea because there's something really interesting about that, because you get to read the comic and then go see the live band, and because they kind of did something like that with Kiss, if you remember that, when they put out that one comic that supposedly had their blood mixed into the ink.
That's the archetype. It was like, we're a band that's very similar and
very theatrical.
Yeah, and it was like they were telling stories. I mean, later on when I think they got on to some other labels, I think they might be with Dynamite or something. I can't remember who's putting out Kiss books still, but it's just like you can do a lot of stuff in comics that you might not necessarily have the budget to do for a movie or videos or even on a live show, and elaborate. Because
I can tell you this, IDW is doing it, and I actually worked on one of the covers.
Awesome.
I think it was the Paul Stanley cover.
Nice.
Paul Stanley was Star Child, right?
Yes. Yep, that's Paul Stanley.
Yeah, the guitar up. It was a really cool scene, and I worked with another artist on it. And IDW puts out a lot of good stuff. Yeah, they do. Tom Waltz is the senior writer over there, and we were business partners and we're close friends to this day.
Nice.
And he actually, I worked for IDW. You'll find this funny because I don't think you know this. I actually got hired by IDW back in the 2000s as the animation director to do animated trailers for their comic titles.
Nice.
And I scored the music to it, directed or did the voiceover for it to help sell it. My buddy Mac actually did one voiceover for Steve Niles and Bertie Wrightson's Dead, She Said, and did this whole, dramatic noir music. It was really cool. And so I'd been doing that for a while, and then Tom Waltz walks in and says to Ted Adams and Chris Ryle, hey, Gerry, he's a pretty good artist too. And they were like, whatever, and he's like, no, seriously. So he went and printed out my portfolio and brought it in, and they hired me on the spot, and I never did any more trailer work. I just my first gig was the A-Team, working on that. Nice. It was a small gig, but I met Chuck Dixon through the process and became friends with Chuck. And but IDW is like it's always going to be my favorite publisher.
They put out a lot of good stuff. I mean, I collect a lot of their titles. In fact, like one, I guess it was. Let me think. It was when James Stokey went over to do the Godzilla ones. I followed him over there. It was like, yay, cool. And then he's just been doing tons of really good stuff for them over there. I wish he would do. I don't know if you're familiar with that artist. He writes and creates a lot of his own stories, and he did this one called Orc Stain that was just amazing.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh man, it is. I always was like, he needs to finish that. I think he got to like issue 6, and it just sat there, and I was like, finish it. But I understand it's you get busy with other projects, and you got to go where the cash is and whatever. It's
that way, man.
It's reasoning.
I'm going to look up real quick to see if I can find it. Kiss comic cover here.
Oh, nice.
So, because I don't know where it is on my hard drive. I'm sure I could find it. I worked on Back to the Future too, so that's one of the first things that pops up. I worked on Iron Sky. Oh no, here it fucking is, right here.
I love Iron Sky. That was fun, and the second one was even crazier.
Yeah, here I'm going to pull it over here, and let's see. I will pop it up. There it is, real quick.
Oh, awesome!
And I just I hit a point over the last year where I'm in my 50s now, and I'm testy. I really, I really don't really want to deal with people. I don't want to get, and I don't blame IDW for this, but I'm not famous, so I'm going to get the normal rates, and I'm sorry, that's not enough for me. Yeah. So I just kind of strayed away from doing that kind of work and working on my own shit. And I'm actually redrawing a comic I did when you and I were fucking hanging out.
Hell yeah.
Remember St. Thomas?
Yep. I actually still have some pages that you Xerox for me in my sketchbooks.
Oh, no shit.
Yep.
God. You are, and I want to point this out. You were my first fucking fellow artist buddy.
Yeah.
And that's why I always felt so close to you, because I understood you and you understood me.
Yeah.
And we spoke this language that, and I didn't have that with very many people. I've got close friends, and just it wasn't the same thing. We had this bond thing that just was hard to describe. Jason Pankoke from Champaign-Urbana, he was my editor at a magazine. He and I kind of have that, but is still nothing like what you and I had back in the 80s. And that's why, for years, I missed that connection I had with you, because I got to be honest, I fucking hate most artists I meet. Graham Nolan is one of the, well, that's not true. Barry Branscombe and a lot of guys I've met that are all pros in the industry. I get along with them. Mm-hmm. But I found that a lot of the artists that I would meet were just borderline commies, and it just annoyed me. And I'm just like, they were just so like, they were just like, hugs are important. And look, I'm not trying to dismiss the value of a hug, but that is not what life is about. And I just found them, and I made fun of them because some of them take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like this, any industry like this, the people. That's why I love GWAR a lot, because that's what we're making fun of. It's that mentality. It's like, yeah, you really can't take yourselves too seriously.
Well, exactly. And my buddy Dave Frizzell, or Drew Frizzell as I know him, I was the assistant scout leader with his wife for my daughter's troop. Girl Scout troop. Mm-hmm. And I met him through her, and we became very chummy, and he's very good artist. And he's worked with some big rock bands and just great stuff, very geekerish in his style. But so you would like him.
Yeah.
And Drew, like one day he was listening to me talk to somebody, and I said this, and he says, can I steal that quote? I said, the problem with most of the artists that I meet is they forget that what we do for a living is only one step away from embroidered toilet paper. And he just thought, it's like, fuck yeah. And I'm like, it's really all it is. Yeah. They act like it's something monumentally important to society. And I'm like, fuck off, go save a life, go when everybody's running away from something dangerous and you run into it. That's when you'll impress me of saying something that's important. Right. You start talking about artwork. It's something I do for a living. It's one step away from giving hand jobs on the corner. You know what I'm talking about. We're whores.
Well, look,
we're whores with art.
There is value in all of it, but that mentality, that entitlement, it's like being in the music industry for so long. I have seen this idea that what you do, no one else can do, and people want to have that superiority over each other, which is it's stupid. There's no reason for any of it. Now,
Right.
there's validity in these works if people find value in them, and that's how I look at it. Is the same way you do. I make fun of it because, again, I'm not taking it that seriously. I always say, like, you can grab one of my books and read it on the toilet. That's where you're gonna read it. But in a lot of ways, I look at it like this: if you can inspire or entertain or pass on stuff to your fellow humans, hey, that's great. You're not being a fucking drag on humanity. That's a good thing. And I do agree with you that, yeah, if you're putting that much value into it, then you should be aiming to make something that's, life changing or groundbreaking. And there's people in the industry that have done it, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're working on the serialized strip every week, and it's, you look at thousands and thousands of comics coming out, and you're like, there's, boxes and boxes of books laying around of millions of stories that I've never read, or even looked at. Where's the value in it all the way across the board? It's like that kind of thing. It's like, how great is it?
Yeah, it's like because I don't remember if you remember, I stopped reading comics in '86 because I got mad over the Secret Wars.
Yeah, well, who didn't?
It's like I remember going, because I think you went with me a couple of times to buy some of the side issues that you had to buy to get the complete story, characters that I could give a shit about. And I can't even remember what they were.
And that was the ham-handed marketing bullshit at the time. It's like, you're doing that to affect sales of other books when it just at the detriment of the freaking story. It's like that was heavy-handed at best. And I agree.
A lot of us felt put out by that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or put off by it more.
Yeah, you're basically, it was to the sacrifice of the story. It wasn't beneficial. Now, if it was beneficial, I'd say, okay, I got to buy all these books. But again, it was just driving you to go buy this character that nobody gives a shit about.
In the end, the only thing that came out of that, in my opinion, that I liked was the symbiote. And I didn't want to spend all that money to find that out. And comics have, increased their price too much, increased the quality of the paper it's on, which is the driving force behind the price going up.
Yeah.
And they need to stop that. They need to go back to newsprint. They need to go back to making them inexpensively and get those damn prices back down.
Yeah.
And get the readership back up. And but I don't know. I think the industry that we knew for the last 50 years is in its death throes right now.
Oh yeah, totally. It totally is. You're looking at like this. There's always an angle, and I think the angle always at this point is to the detriment of the storytelling, and that's the problem, because that's what drove these books in the first place. If you're looking at the heights and the writers and the artists and illustrators who made this industry, that was the focal point. You look at people like say Chris Claremont, like say take the X-Men for instance. Chris Claremont and John Byrne's whole cycle of that story that they've made 8 million movies off of and retold that story a million times now. That initially was the beginning of it, but it was the story was amazing, and that's what drove that industry, I think, into that corner. But you're looking at it like you don't have the same quality as those writers. There's too many of them that are just writing things with an agenda instead of just going, can I tell a story?
It's agenda over story. And that's the problem I have. It's like I've said before, if you have a point to make in your story, go ahead, but tell a fucking story that's good.
Yep.
Don't throw this agenda shit at me and say that's a story.
You're right.
I'm a writer myself as well as a reader, and I know a story when I'm reading it. Right. And this is not that. And it's funny because I tell people, because Keith, who I'm hoping will be able to join us in this and all, but I'm not putting my expectations too high.
He's trying to whittle out some internet.
He got hit with that lightning, man.
Yeah.
And in fact, I just invited Devin in. She says it's in the middle of rendering process, so I can't join because the computer can't handle it.
Oh,
she's a GWAR fan, and I'm trying to get her to come in.
Come on in.
Matt is so disappointed. Is crying.
Why?
And
why does the internet suck right now?
You won't join. I'm trying to type with a bandage on my hand.
No.
And because I sliced my hand last night doing dishes because somebody did a no-no, which I've said, please don't do that, because I'm the dishwasher, and I would appreciate if you would not put glasses in the sink and then set stuff on top of it.
And then you go in there.
Set the glasses on the side. But somebody put a glass in there, and I reached in to grab something and sliced the shit all the way around my finger. Ouch. And this is my third Band-Aid because it kept getting dark. Yeah, it kept bleeding through. And finally, it seems to have stopped a little bit, even though I can still see blood seepage on here a little bit on the back. But I was coming out and I was ranting. I was angry. And it's hard to make me angry. That made me angry.
How many times?
And I just kept saying the words, you fucking people. You fucking people.
Had it up to here.
You can tell when Gary's angry when he stops identifying you individually and just refers to you as an entire group as you fucking people. Because I knew it was one of the kids or Deanna, my girlfriend. I said, I don't care which one of you it is. You're all the fucking people, and I blame you all. And Deanna was just like, here's a Band-Aid, and I'm going to fuck off now. She just walks away. Because when I get angry, it's like the best thing to do, just leave me alone. Just walk away from me and let me.
Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear.
That's what Lisa, my boss, used to call me, Lisa Nally. I love her. We're still close friends. I'm close friends with almost all my bosses that I've had over the years. Nice. And because we have really strong bonds. The last one that I was closest to just died of cancer last year. And it was devastating. Because even though I would probably never work for the guy again, because the business didn't end well, and because put a lot of effort into it and it just fizzled, and it died because of bad decision making. But I stayed friends with that guy, and was made lead pallbearer at his funeral, and it sucks. Oh yeah. But at the same time, the thing is I'm friends with all my ex-bosses.
Well, that's good. I mean, why not? If you had a connection with them,
Yeah, and Lisa Nally's one of them. I love her and her husband, Mike. I think they're great people. I liked hanging out with them. They're funny. And I even yelled at Lisa once, and she yelled at me for sure. In fact, sometimes she would just come in and just be upset about something and just yell in my general direction. And I remember one time she came in, was angry about something that had nothing to do with me, just yelling. And I looked at her, I said, I want you to know you just shut me down for 2 hours. I'm not going to be creating anything just to deal with the stress that you just gave me over that.
I'm walking away. I gotta get my head.
She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to go drink some fizzy soda and I'll be good to go. Pump some Mountain Dew in me.
Yeah.
But it's like, because like you and I used to get together. We have these creative sessions. You'd come over to my house when I lived with Patty, or I'd go over there to your place. We'd either hang out in your room or we'd go down to your basement and hang out down there. Hell, I remember one weird day we were in the laundry room just sort of hanging out. I don't know what that was about. Yeah. Listening to punk music in there.
I know, right?
Yeah, and this is back before MST3K, and you and I would watch movies and we would turn the volume down.
Do the same thing. Yeah,
and just make up our own dialogue. And you and I would just like do the voices and shit. It was fun. First time I saw Akira was with you.
Yep. On VHS.
on high definition VHS.
Yeah. And it's funny because I have some band members who are a little younger who had never seen it. And I was like, what? You haven't seen Akira? How'd you not see Akira?
You kind of go out of your way. It's like when somebody tells me, oh, I've never seen a Star Wars movie. I said,
yeah.
You kind of have to go out of your way not to see those. So
like,
what's up with you?
Anything that kind of equates to anime at the time, it was like, yeah, there was that. Later on, it was Dragon Ball. You had all these things that had like went wild into our culture from those genres, and Akira was one of those. That was a lot of people's first introduction to anime.
And it's so funny because like you were a big gamer too.
Yeah.
And
I
remember you were the first person I ever met that recorded your own games, so you could go back and watch the videos and figure out where you went wrong or what you missed. And I'd never seen anybody do that before. And I was like fascinated by you doing that. And, but, unbeknownst to you, I was also a gamer. I've been a gamer since 1972 when Pong came out. We bought it. I had the console.
Oh, good old Pong.
I gave it to my daughter.
Uh-huh.
And I still had the console.
Nice.
When my dad passed away, it was there, and I'm like, I'm claiming this as mine.
Yeah.
And along with his porn. No.
I need those Playboys. Come
on. He didn't have porn, but he did when we were kids. We stole them from him. My brother, my brother Jim and I would go into their room and sneak him out from under the mattress and go off in the woods and look at him, going, that girl's got big old titties. And but in the latter years, he was like living the life of a monk, and he was really weird. I love him, but miss him. But he had some weird stuff about him towards the end. But we would talk about that shit, and I would tell him about like all the shit we would talk about when we were younger back in the 80s. And when I first told him about you, he's like, how's your elfish friend? Call me on the phone. How's your elfish? Because I was always talking about you. I'm like, I met this other artist, man. It was just like me and played games and stuff. And but during the 80s, after Kel's Arcade closed, I didn't play games for a while, and I kind of missed it. And hanging out with you made me want to play games again. Yeah. But I never got on with your game because I didn't know shit about how to play. What was that one you played? Was it something? It was Sonic?
Well, back then I think we were doing
Mega Man. That was
Mega
it.
Man, and there was because when the NES came out, we had switched and we started doing like Mario 2 or the second Mario Brothers and all those ones, those side scroller kind of fun, jumpy.
Yeah, and I had trouble understanding them at first. That wasn't what I played. I got it. I go over to Brian Embry's place and play on his little Commodore and play.
Yeah, we had a Commodore.
Was it Elf Quest? I think. No.
Well, there was he had the original. So I think at first he had Ultima, and he had because he would play Ultima all the time.
Yeah, it was an over where you're looking over the character.
And it was around. Like very Dungeons and Dragons-y where you like. You'd zoom in.
And I enjoyed that.
Yes,
I enjoyed that.
Left, right,
Yeah, I enjoyed that because I understood it better at the time. And then in the 90s, I started getting back into gaming again, and the late 90s. And I played that game, the horror game that was so popular.
Resident Evil, maybe?
Resident Evil. Oh, my God. I remember playing that in the middle of the night. Nobody was in the room. It was like yep, I'm sitting with the controller, headset on. Then this dog smashes through the window. The controller goes flying out of my hand. I'm like, oh, shit! In the dark, trying to find the controller that just threw out of my hand. And I got hooked right back into it. Bought my GameCube next and hated it. And immediately bought my first Xbox. And I've been an Xbox player ever since, pro level on some of it, like Call of Duty. And I just started playing again recently with Call of Duty on PC. And I'm finding it very frustrating, even though I'm using an Xbox controller. It's got a different feel to it.
Oh yeah,
because
totally.
It's on the PC.
Totally.
So I've been wondering if maybe I should just hunker down and just buy another Xbox.
Well, I mean, it's a choice because you're also paying. It's sort of redundant in a little ways because you're paying for another device that your computer can do and yada yada. The thing I would say about it would be is like if you're gonna play other Xbox games that you can't play on your PC, but like Steam and all these other things that you can do, emulators and things like that. I don't know.
Because I have Steam. I have a few games. I play Mad Max on Steam.
Yeah, because right now the only quote unquote console I have, I got a Switch. That's the only one that I have because I've essentially moved to all online games. I've just been playing. It sucks because I had been playing BSG for.
Oh yes, look at that.
This was 9 years of my life playing Battlestar Galactica online, and I guess it was last year, they just took it offline, and it was like, all that work gone.
Bring it back. But I'm excited because this year they brought Blade Runner back.
Yeah.
And Westwood game from '97, and it's a really good game. I have the original game, but now they've upgraded it to be put on consoles.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, hell yeah. Plus, they also upgraded the game itself for the PC, so I'm getting me a copy of that here real soon. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays. I love gaming. I really do.
Oh, that's great.
But what happened with me, though, with gaming, and I don't know if this ever happened to you, I would get on there to relieve stress because I like killing people. And I don't want to do it in real life because I'm a pacifist. That's why I became a medic. But in the virtual world, I will kill the shit out of people.
Shoot you in the face.
I will mock them afterward. I never did the teabagging shit.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends did, but like I've got friends on Facebook that only knew me through Xbox as Cohen's Ghost, and which is the artist name I use when I release my music because I don't like using my real name. And so these guys all knew me as Cohen's Ghost, and like one guy was like the band, and I'm like, it's not a band, it's just me. You put out that music, and I went, yeah, 2 CDs, yeah. No shit. Are you fucking with me? And I'm like, no, I'm Gerry Cassell. You go look at the copyright holder name on it. It's mine. And he goes, God. And he went and checked. He goes, I've got 2 of your CDs, man. You need to sign them for me. And I did. He mailed them to me. I mailed them right back. Signed. But I don't have like a fan base, even though it says I have one. I don't really. Nobody bugs me.
I mean, a lot of times when I play these games, I don't even mention it. And on Battlestar, it was like 3 years before anybody found out that I was in GWAR. And my wing commander, it turned out like about 90% of my wing were fans. And then I was like, whoa, okay.
And the same thing goes with like the comics I worked on. They're like, no shit, you worked on Army of Two? And I went, yeah, I worked on Army of Two for EA. And they're like, holy shit.
And I found this thing that was really funny though, was like when you're on TeamSpeak or comms with somebody and you hear their voice, you sort of get this mental picture of what they look like. Yeah. And I found out I was really bad at that game. Like I was like everybody I met, because I started having them come out to shows and meeting most of my wing. I was like, you don't look anything like your voice. Like I'm just terrible at this game. Like it's like, boy, I pictured somebody completely different, But it was cool. That's for funny. 9 years to have a group of strangers just playing something for fun, and that's kind of why I like my wing.
And did you build some friendships on there? Because I did.
Yeah, because a lot of people, like our wing commander, he was a really nice dude, and we got to the point where his wife had gotten cancer, and we were commiserating with him and having these, there was all these, and it was funny because then people really showed their true colors of the wing when he had to say, I got to take some time off to, deal with my wife at this situation. It started a lot of infighting about like, I'm going to be in charge, it's like, it's just a game, like, come on, man.
Yeah, but it takes up so much time because like I'd play Call of Duty, and sometimes I found, and this is what I was going to get at, is that I would end up putting almost too much time
Oh
into
yeah, yeah.
gaming,
It's
and
easy to do.
I was losing time that I'm supposed to be working on shit. And
Yeah,
that's why I got rid of my keyboard, because I saw giving up doing music for a while less important than giving up gaming.
yeah.
And you know, but I developed some really good friends on there. In fact, Carlos and Brian, God, Ricky, all those Ryan, all those guys are all on my Facebook page, and they subscribe. They actually follow and they like it when I fuck with people. And that was what they liked when I was on Xbox. Is they're like, nobody fucks with people like you. You say the most absurd. Like I pretended to be retarded once, mentally retarded.
Oh no.
I walked into the room. Hi, my name is Billy. I live in a group home, and the guy that takes care of us in the group home has an Xbox, and he said I could play with you. So I promised him that I would not hurt his KDR. I think he called it KDR. And but okay, but thank you for letting me play with you. And I would get on, and my buddies would all just be quiet. They didn't want to laugh out loud. They'd mute their microphones because they're rolling. And I would slaughter everybody on the other team in a battle, just slaughter them. And we come out of the room. I go, that was so much fun. Thank you. I'm sorry I broke all your players, though. Don't be mad at me. And they were like, people would ask, like, is he really mentally retarded?
I mean, my some of my stranger interactions with people, especially because like with Battlestar, they set up a TeamSpeak and they had a general like room where you could go in and talk to everybody. Then you had your own wing command rooms where you could like private chat, and the general room would just be full of. I mean, it's like, where are these people at? You know, what are they doing? The cuckoo bananas, you know. It's like
I liked it back in the old Halo days.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because if you got close to a player, they could hear you talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I would walk up to him and I'd go, "Hey, how you doing? You got a pretty bottom." And the person would like be looking around, and
psychological warfare starts.
And then walk up with my rifle and go, "Bam!" Butt strike. And just say the most messed up shit to people. And like kids, I hated kids.
Oh man, there were so many trolls. I mean, people would start infuriating things on the comms. They had a universal chat, and then they had a system chat. And depending on what you were watching, there's people having just heated arguments about the dumbest stuff. You know. And you're just,
like, well, you get these shit talking kids about 10 to 12 years old coming in here. It's like, I'm gonna rape you.
Yeah.
Like, kid, your balls haven't even dropped yet. But then I decided to start messing with them, and this is the one that Carlos would just die laughing when I would do it. I'd start talking like the gay character from Family Guy.
Oh no!
I go, oh, hey, how you doing? What's your name, little girl? What's your name, little girl? I'm a boy. Oh, that's even better. So I have to, because of Megan's Law, I have to tell you that I can't be within 50 feet of a child.
Does this count?
And I'd say fucked up shit. So, do you have hair down there yet? Because I like them smooth. drove these kids out of the room, and everybody would be dying laughing, going, "Dude, you know how to get rid of kids?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, just be perverted."
Yeah.
And
you know, it was crazy because that BSG community, I was playing on an American server, and they had servers all over the world. I had, because you had the two fractions, you had the Colonials and the Cylon. Of course, I'm playing a Cylon for fucking sure. And the head pilot, because I was a strike pilot, I flew a War Raider. That was my jam. And the head strike pilot over on their side, he was the best player in the game. And I'd fought against him so many times because I was just trying to learn how the hell he did his stuff. And he respected the fact that, like, I figured out how he was doing his stuff, but he also respected that I wasn't talking shit, and I was just there to have fun. I was there to play a game, you know? And when we met on comms, he got so, you know, like, wow, this guy's just here for fun. that he wanted to fly with me all the time, but we were on opposite teams. So he was like, come to my side, come to my side. They were going to do a fraction switch, and you could swap sides and keep your account.
Right.
And I was like, no, I love Cylons. The kill, you were outnumbered 12-1. You had good times anytime you got on there. And when the fraction switch happened, he wanted to fly with me so bad he came to my side. And I was like, this is awesome. We were just out there to have fun. And that's how I see a lot of those games. I feel bad for people who get caught up in like the ego part of it, being like, it defines me as a person, when it's like, no.
Yeah, I knew a guy like that, and he was in our clan, and I would intentionally get on the opposing team during practice, and I would tube the shit out of him because I knew it made him mad.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I won a clan match for my team, last man versus him, because he had left us and joined another clan. And he's like, "I'm going to get him." He had no idea I was watching him the whole time. And my entire team is watching through me. And I've got my sights on him, and they knew I could nail him at any point. And then just for shits and giggles, I popped open my tube, and I dropped the tube right on top of him. Killed him instantly. And he was cussing. And I said, "Yeah, I know, dude. It sucks losing."
It's easy to get caught up in the moment and be like heated and have a heated
response. He's just that way.
But
he was God's gift. Now, Ryan, Anubis Jackal is what he went by, and we're still really good friends. He was one of the last people I visited in Phoenix when I left. And that dude was a beast, and he was pro level. And he taught me, I would just kind of like follow him and run and gun. Don't camp, run and gun. And I would constantly move, stick and move, stick and move, stick and move. And my KDR went really high because of what I learned from him. And I took it. And there was a point where I actually considered myself going pro, and it's like, I'm too old. I'm too old. Nobody wants to pay
too
me.
old for that stuff.
Nobody's going to want to pay some fat old guy to play. I'll look like one of those creepy characters from South Park.
The internet's full of them. The internet is full of them. What are you talking about?
And so I focused more on my art career. And that's when my art career really started taking off, was around 2011. Because it was a struggle for a while. And because I know that you had your ups and downs too.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what goes with being an artist. It's like, it's like, if this is what completes you, then you're going to suck it up and drive on.
Yep.
And,
I mean, ultimately, that's like, a lot of the people around here also agree. It's like, you're doing it for the love of doing it. That's why you're doing it, not, to the end. If you can make tons of cash off of it, great. But the idea is that you love what you're doing, because there's no way GWAR would have happened this long if people didn't love what they were doing.
Right. And because like my favorite song was a cover they did.
Was it the Kansas one?
Yes. Oh my God. I cracked up laughing at the whole beginning.
My Wayward Son.
Yeah. And like at first I was like, are they actually faking it?
No.
Like know the words? I was like, what the hell?
That was always the toughest thing with Dave. It was always funny. You'd say, you're doing a parody or you're doing a cover. He would always confuse the two. Like he wanted to do, what was it? It was Medieval Woman. It was something like, what did he call it? It was Werewolf? No, I can't remember. He basically wanted to parody the song versus cover it. And he kept saying cover it. And we're like, what do you mean? Like if you change the lyrics, then you're parodying it. You're not covering it. Covering it is singing the same lyrics, And that was how he looked at all those. When we started doing the Onions AV Club, that's why all those covers came out. We were never satisfied with just doing one song. It was always like, oh, well, let's mishmash, Pet Shop Boys with Cyndi Lauper, and then do this, that, and the other, and make it a mishmash, because essentially that's what GWAR usually is. It's a mishmash of a whole bunch of different ideas,
Right. And I got to show you, I wouldn't have even heard that song if not for this guy, Rob Bankus. You'd like him. He reminds me a lot of you. Um, uh, but he does this thing that even I do now. It's like all my friends. I talked to you about this the other day when we talked. It's like if somebody is a real close friend of mine, little things they do, their little idioms rub off on me.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this one where he goes, it just makes ridiculous words. Oh, I don't want to show that picture because it's got his kid in it. There he is. Okay, let me open this up. That's Rob Bankus.
Nice. I like the Dr. Evil.
Yes. Rob is, he was with that band I told you about, the Overdogs punk band. And I'm friends with all the bandmates, even though they broke up or just sort of fell apart. It just
right, like
they
some bands do.
They grew up, got lives, and but he's gotten back into playing guitar, which makes me happy. And I like it when my musician friends go back and refine their instruments.
Yeah,
and because I miss playing drums and playing keyboards. I don't have a drums or keyboard here. And so I'm looking forward to eventually getting it and creating some new music again.
Well, luckily I still have my Fender here. Fernandez.
Nice.
With the blue string.
Hey, play us a song, Matt.
No, I'm terrible.
No, I'm awful. Thank you very much. But so once again, I want to go back to the fact that you always predicted that you would end up working for GWAR.
Well, it wasn't like,
it was a goal,
motivation. It was like an idea of like, I really wanted to do. In fact, at the beginning when I left school or left to go to school, it was like, I wanted to do something similar to GWAR. Like I was like, man, the idea was, especially at the time, it was so over the top. Like there was no other band doing that type of interactivity, the creativeness of the costumes and the music all jammed together. I mean, I always looked at it like more of an art movement than a band, because the fact that you had all these things, if you started unpeeling the onion and see that they did develop a mythos, they had a reason for all of this stuff that was happening, and their commentary about humanity was very sound. It was there was a lot of really even though it was kind of scattershot at the original a few records, the ideas were there. You could see like, wow, there's this vast universe of storytelling and ideas already there in GWAR. Man, when I first started hanging around these guys, the idea that people that were my like mind, like a creative person, it always goes back to that idea when you meet somebody who's like, oh, you draw and you do this. Yeah, there's that bright-eyed kid and the other dude over there.
That's you and me in 1987.
Yeah, I think I'm wearing my Lone Wolf and Cub shirt in that one.
You were. You're the reason I got interested in Lone Wolf and Cub. And,
I mean that the Musashi story.
And that's Patty's car, that Buick Skyline.
Oh, right, that's right. Yeah,
you and I
jacket my mom bought me.
I look back to the mid to late 80s, and it's like the person I hung out with the most other than my girlfriend was you.
Yeah. I mean, the ice cream shop you worked at was the hangout. That was where we'd go to hang out and work on stuff.
All the skater punks would come there and hang out. We'd sit at that one little table by the window.
Yeah.
I'd put coins in the jukebox and we'd listen to all the latest music.
And then work on artwork or do crazy stuff, man. It was great.
And that dude that owned the shop, and apparently that shop is still there, that sandwich shop.
Really?
Yeah, that dude, I don't think you were there that day. It was the blonde-haired kid that you and I were talking about. I always forget his name. Was there that day, and another dude, and all of a sudden this guy storms over because we were laughing outside, and he heard it, or he was outside and he heard us laughing, came in and tried to start a fist fight with me.
Oh, wow.
And I look, dude, I'm not scared of you, but I'm not going to fight you. And I wasn't laughing, nor were these kids. Were laughing because I said something fucking funny.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm a funny guy. I don't need to mock you. He was a paranoid dude. And when I joined the Army and came back to visit everybody that worked at the shop, because I was friends with everybody else but him, I walked into the shop in my Class A uniform, and I'm like, eat shit, bitch. You wish you looked this good. You psycho. But, we're just two long-haired weirdos. Well, you and Patrick, Brian Embry and I all had long hair.
Yeah.
And Father Weems referred to us as the long-haired weirdos.
Well,
You
that's
long-haired weirdos.
basically what we were.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those are fun times.
In Stafford, Virginia. I mean, come on. We were on the fringe back then. And it's funny, too, because I remember, like, even that jacket, I was fighting with my mom to get me a leather jacket for so long. And she kept like, you got to have a nice jacket. And I'm like, come on, man. That jacket screams 80s like nothing else. Let's go with the yellow and gray ski jacket here.
Yeah, I need to find. There was that one newspaper where you and I were doing portraits of the people at the nursing home.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I remember that. Yeah, that was cool.
And there you are with Melanie.
Oh, man, you got to send me that picture. That's amazing.
Yeah. I think I thought I tagged you, but I guess I'll re-tag you on it.
Yeah, please do.
So all you gotta do is download it.
I have absolutely no pictures of her. She took them all away from me.
And that's the character that started out as Mr. Nobody. And it was you.
Yep.
It was you walking around with a paper bag on your head.
Yep.
And I kept saying it looks like a marshmallow, so it became a marshmallow.
Yep. Yep.
And I eventually just sort of said, hey, man, let me play with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I started writing stuff, and you had all these ideas, and I started pulling those ideas in there. And I wanted to make it an R-rated comedy because I wanted there to be the whole sex thing in there.
Yeah.
Because
especially because he's so short, and it would be funny to put him with like a regular sized woman and like, deal with
exactly
mechanic.
And one of the running jokes that I wanted to put in there was that, oh, you're right, it never loses its shape, and it's always sweet.
Yeah.
And I just thought of all these perverted things to add in there. And then what was the thing that I threw in there was all the strength of Marshmallow with none of its weakness.
Yeah.
Which was a throwback to the Hulk.
Yeah, right.
No, Superman. Superman.
Superman. Yeah, it was Superman.
Superman. The strength of steel with none of its weakness. Like, what's the strength of Marshmallow?
I'm not sure if I brought any of that.
But I did figure out how he became Detective Nobody. He was originally police officer Nathan Brody.
Yeah, he
wanted to warm up his marshmallows because he liked them soft and put them in a microwave. But Dr. Big Brain had souped up the microwave so it exploded, and he was covered in irradiated marshmallow. And the only thing on his name tag that's survived was NBODY, the letters.
Right.
So started calling him Nobody, and he had his dad's detective badge, which was partially damaged. That was what I ended up writing later on, because I was like, how did he? Because I had to come up with how did he come about?
Yeah, originally he was. I think I'm going to try to find. It was. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if we can. This was.
Oh, there you go.
Some of the
That was you. That's Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, that was the bag on the head version, right?
Yep.
And then I think as we started to progress, we got into the. Let's see if I can find it there. If there's any that it's funny because I've been for years thinking about just redrawing the strip that we wrote together. Because this was like some of the original.
Oh my God! I always loved the way you did the eyes, and I did googly eyes too, but I couldn't do googly eyes the way you did them. I had my own way.
It's better, as he progressed.
That's how I did the eyes.
Yeah,
right
as he progressed, it's better to have the brow so you have the expression. It's like.
Well, there's this joke I wrote in there because I was thinking about you one day, and it's like we had the whole cigar thing just seemed funny to me. Yeah, and it's like so. I explained to him. He's like, "Hey, if you don't have a mouth, how are you smoking that thing?" And he says, "I'm not smoking it. It's purely for attitude." I love that. Look at that. And then Detective Nobody takes the cigar out of his face, and he goes, because if I put it up here and he shoves it into his forehead, it just looks weird. So I put it down here.
Yeah, and I think then at that point, like, right, this I think was one of the more later ones that I did. Yeah, I started to try to get that idea of creating, less of the googly eyes.
And you're doing the gun, what do they call it? The Nixon.
Yeah, it was.
The Nixon something annihilator.
Yeah, it was something like that. But the funniest thing is, my parents still have that big. I did a full illustration of everybody at the time in the Detective Nobody universe, and it's in my dad's shop. He actually still displays it right now, even in their new house. It's hilarious. It's still there.
Oh my God. I still have pages of artwork that I just don't know. I want to get around to doing it, but if I do it, I want to do it with you.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because that's one of the reasons why I sought you for so many years, trying to reconnect so we could do some of this shit that we wanted to do together.
I know, right? There was so many cool ideas on the table.
I think back on that story you came up with that was hilarious, Time Lords, about these two idiots that were kind of just basically you and me, and doing stupid shit. And oh my God, it was funny. And it was really kind of as much as it borrows from the name from Doctor Who, it was really more of a kind of a nod to what do you call it? Keanu Reeves movie.
Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted. Because we're kind of like that anyway. But God, just such good fucking times. And I love the artwork you did. And I like the shit you do now. In fact, my girlfriend's brother, Alex, I showed him the logo you did for the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Because he owns a bar. And he has kind of a nice logo, but the print out of it is too pixelated. I didn't like that, so I've told him I would redo it in Illustrator, so he'd have a vector copy of it, cleaner, so he could print it to any size and not lose quality. But he was fell in love, and he's a retired pro skater too.
Oh, nice.
And he just absolutely loved your artwork.
Oh,
and so. But we need to do a book. I don't know what it'll be about other than Detective Nobody. Obviously, we got to do Detective Nobody, and but we need to come up with something of our own. That's just something new and
it's grown-ups. Something we can come up with. Where it's grown-ups.
Since we became full-fledged,
not that that's going to change the humor or anything at all. Still going to be 12th grader, maybe 10th grade.
I used to tell people all the time, it's like I was in my 20s, and my closest friends at the time were in their freaking teens. Because I was so juvenile in my behavior, which was what was attractive about me to Patty, until she got to know me. She goes, "Oh, you are actually kind of a teenager." And I went, "Yeah." I never grew up. I suffer the Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah, me too. A lot of it's funny because that's. Creative people tend to go into that, Neverland.
We tend to be outlandish, kind of silly, focused on being creative rather than focused on other things. And but my current girlfriend seems to like that. She just laughed. I don't know if you can hear her. She let out that nose.
Yeah, it's funny because when I always meet people that talk about that, it's such a weird thing. Like, how do you come up with all these ideas? Like, I don't even know. I was like, were you ever a kid? Like, did you ever imagine stuff? That's all you're doing. You're just
when you play G.I. Joe,
it's
you're coming up with stories.
That's it. You're coming up with that conflict and resolution. Hey, what do you want? Easy enough.
Exactly. And so we always had fun doing that shit, hanging out. And I'm curious if it's going to be as enjoyable as adults doing it, and I suspect it will be.
Yeah.
With Detective Nobody in particular, I would actually like to throw that on the table for, if not later this year, for the first of next year.
Yeah, I've got...
If I survive this virus.
I know, right? Damn it. If the comic book industry survives...
Yeah, we're calling it Comapocalypse.
Yeah, man. I don't even know, how mom and pop stores are going to stay in business, and
I predicted that a majority won't open their doors on the other end of this.
it sucks, man. It sucks. We've got it's like 3 or 4 really good shops in town, and I feel bad that I can't support them because they're closed. Everybody's closed. It's like such a bummer.
Yeah. And it's because like there was one in Fredericksburg, right across from the Hardys in that little Victorian strip mall.
Oh yeah,
it was like a little bunch of businesses.
Was that
Princess Anne Street, I think.
Was that Max's Comics or something?
That was it, Max's Comics.
Yeah,
and that was for a long time that was the last comic shop I ever visited.
Well, dude, those guys, that was the funniest thing. I always tell the story. I was like, I remember the summer that I walked into the comic store and they were talking about the Dark Knight and the Watchmen series. And I remember that.
Wait a minute. No. Wait a minute. That was in just before you took off.
No, that would have been 80. Shit. I think those came out in 86. So
okay, because I remember going to that shop and how I talked to the owner because once again talking about Batman because of the new movie coming out.
Well, yeah. So that would have been closer to 90 because 90 was when that movie came out. But The Dark Knight had come out a few years before that, and
the graphic novel. Gotcha,
the only reason that I had read, I was like, I had started reading independent comics. I'd started kind of weaning myself off of mainstream. Once I found out, like, I'd already understood heavy metal. I already understood 2000 AD, all these other ideas of how to tell stories. And you look at 2000 AD, man, that shit's just, all those writers and artists.
Yeah, it was blotto. It was. Now, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Was it you or Jim Woodward that got me to read The Dark Knight and Watchmen?
I think it was me because at that point, right, that's what I was getting to say.
You and I were hanging out the most.
I didn't know about that type of stuff because I was slowly getting into those types of comics, and those comics were just starting to be a thing where it was like a mainstream character telling this type of just crazy dark or realistic story. It's like the Watchmen. You're like, who was writing stuff at that time that was like that? There was a few, but not like that. Like you're like, man, mind-blowing stuff. And I feel like that opened the floodgates for a lot of that type of storytelling. And yeah, you can take comic books seriously and you don't have to be like it's just about these superheroes and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I ended up getting all those issues because the guys at that comic book store were just fessing about how amazing those stories and the artwork and everything was, I liked Frank Miller's stuff at that point anyways. He'd done that Elektra series and I think there might have been a few other ones like that. I had ended up getting that Wolverine poster where he's attacking all those ninjas. That was all Frank Miller. It was like amazing stuff.
Yeah, because Frank Miller really impressed me.
Yeah.
And I liked both his writing and his artwork.
Yeah.
Even though he's gotten sloppy over the last few years.
Yeah.
Both in the artwork and in the writing. But man, he had an impact on how I drew him. Yeah. And later, when you and I became friends, Mike Mignola. Oh,
Mignola, man. Hands down, totally.
Because remember the first artwork I did for St. Thomas was very Mignola-ish.
Right.
And because I liked the way he did his shading. And I still use stark. I don't use cross-hatching. I don't do any of that crap. I like having solid darks. I like everything to be a solid dark or a solid white. Yeah. And with a little bit of edge feathering. And
I know like that was the thing. A lot of Hunter likes a lot of cross-hatching in his art. And I always felt like, well, you're really limiting your ability to color it or to do something more with it by doing that, because when you color it, then it just turns into a mess. Like you're trying to make shadow where there's all this hatching in the middle of it, And
it's like I think there are only a handful of artists that can do it, and I'm friends with one of them, I was friends with the other one, but he died, is Bernie Wrightson.
Oh,
and Kelly Jones. And
Bernie
Kelly Jones is the heir apparent to Bernie Wrightson's style.
Yeah.
But Bernie just was really into doing this amazingly detailed feathering and hatching.
But that's the thing. If you're really being mindful of it, if you're really trying to make it so that, when you look at something that Bernie Wrightson has, it's a black and white and color, it looks amazing still. Like there's just this, quality to it. Whereas if you're trying to do an underground comic style and you're just not quite thinking it out, you're just trying to create depth with black and white, it's not forward thinking, because you're not going to use that in color. You're going to drop half that shit out. It's not going to look good. It's just going to look like a muddled mess. It's too much black in there. So, no, I agree. Bernie was going to those conventions. That was the best part, because here we're perceived as just these rockers. A lot of these guys didn't understand that we were doing our own comics and drawing and stuff, and meeting them and getting tutoring and counseling from, like, we were sitting at a table, and I always had my sketchbook with me back in the day. Now it's an iPad, which is ridiculous. But I'd always have it, and I'd be eating something and then drawing something. And Sergio Aragonis came up to me, and he was looking. He was like, "Can I look?" And he thumbs through my book, and then he sees my thumbnailing process for creating strips I would draw teeny little bitty thumbnail. Like, here's the page. It's like that big, And he's like, "Why are you doing that? Like, what? Draw it to scale. Then your work's
you're talking about the Sergio that drew Groot, right?"
Correct. Yeah, and he was the nicest dude. Like, he was so nice, and he was very helpful, and he was very, like, respectful of, like, telling you the realistic aspects of comic book drawing. It's like the likelihood of you going in there and making a lot of money is, Yeah,
it's like less than 10% of comic artists actually can make a living.
Yeah,
off of what they do.
And it's unfortunate, because there's a lot of talented people out there, and there's a lot of people that.
Well, this is where conventions have really come in handy.
Yeah,
because I know a lot of artists. In fact, the other Sergio Cariello, who's was a Marvel comic artist, did a lot of amazing Spider-Man artwork.
Yeah.
In fact, hold on a second. Let me pull one of his pieces up here. Here we go. Open this view image and turn that on.
Yeah.
And Sergio's going to be in the next interview.
See, right there is the perfect example. See that hatching, that line work in his underarm areas and stuff. That's proper use of it.
Yeah.
It's not overdone where you're not letting that color seep through nicely and stuff.
Yeah, look at that detail that he puts in there.
Amazing. That's great stuff.
Yeah, and I'm going to have him on. He was supposed to be on last week, but we had some car trouble, so I wasn't able to make the interview. And but we plan to have him on again this next week, and I'll send it to you, the link to it, so you can watch it.
Nice, excellent.
Because I like talking to those guys. These guys that have been around for a while, that got to work with some of the Silver Age artists and writers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had Graham and Chuck Dixon on, and they talked a lot about that. And Rick Stacy too, or Stacy, I'm sorry.
Right.
He says I was saying his name wrong. Yeah. So I'm like, because you're Italian. He goes, yeah, but Stacy is German. I'm like, okay. For some reason, I thought Stacy was the Italian way of pronouncing it. He goes, no, you are wrong. And I went, well, you're Italian. I will take your word for it. And all those guys got to work at DC and Marvel in those days when some of the guys that were coming up in the 60s and 70s. So I love that shit.
The time period. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Said, oh, what's in that? What's on that hat?
Iron Man, 1963.
I am Iron Man. Yeah. Buddy.
The guy that I really wish I'd been able to meet, I'd missed him at a couple conventions because we were at it, was Mobius, man. I really had wished I'd been able to meet him.
Jean-Claude, what was his last name?
Yeah, I always forget how to say it. Amazing. I mean, honestly, like hands down, I was like every time. So I was friends with the guy who ran the Javits Center convention in the '90s. His daughter was always like helping curate and run around and take care of the artists and stuff. And she had sketchbooks full of different amazing famous artists that just here draw something for me in the sketchbook. And the Mobius ones, you just look at it and you're just like, God, I suck. I just suck. This guy is so freaking good. Like to try to aspire to be that good, like at that level where it looked like he just pen drawing.
His 3-point perspective was some of the best I ever saw.
Unbelievable.
And then on top of that, he could do a Western and then turn right around and doing science fiction. He was just
world building though. World building. You
amazing.
Look at an artist at that level and you look at all those worlds that he would build. I mean, just fully all the mechanics
and his shading, everything. The way he did it was so different from anybody else. Mm-hmm. He would do contours with the lines and then follow that contour and follow that contour and then lead it to a dot and a smaller dot. And that gave you this imaginary concept that filled, in our brain told us that shading. I understand that. Mm-hmm. And our brain understood that. And visually it was so pleasing.
Oh, totally. I mean, I there's not many pieces of his that I'm just like, I look at a lot of those guys from that time period, especially guys who were contributing to heavy metal at the time. You just look at a lot of the art they did and you're just like, I fucking suck. What am I doing with my life? It's like,
Corbin lives by me up here.
Oh, I love Corbin. Corbin is so amazing, man. He's so amazing.
I will never get him on the show. He is so introverted.
I'm sure.
He won't do shows like this. He just wants to kind of stay in his studio and keep to himself. And that's
it's weird because I saw as the progression in technology when he started doing some of the Den stuff digitally, I was like, he's still doing stuff that you're just like, how are you doing that? What? Tell us your secrets. Tell us your secrets.
Yeah.
Just like shake your head. Why? Yeah,
I converted to digital in 2010.
Yeah.
Because Photoshop had evolved just far enough.
Yep.
That I could put the airbrush away, and Deanna's seen it. I've got a nice Pache airbrush. I have a big compressor, and I just don't use it. I do everything through Photoshop. I do my yep. I got sick of cleaning those things, dude.
Well, it's funny because we still paint all our props with them.
Yeah, because that's real world, Yeah. So yeah, you gotta.
But digitally, I've been finding I still love Photoshop, but Procreate is the shit. It's awesome.
Who puts out Procreate?
I think it's an Australian company. I've been trying to reach them because I want to do some tutorials with them and for all the sort of like easy, like on an iPad or a tablet with the response of the pens and stuff and the brushes you can make and the brushes you can get.
It's a Mac app. That's
you can do it on. I'm pretty sure that it's cross-platform. You can do it on Android, iOS stuff. Like if you have like what's the equivalent tablet? I can't remember what the other one is.
For Android, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is the name of the app? iPad version for an Android. Is it a notebook? Is that what it's called? The little pad to draw on.
I might be uninformed, but I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of different artists on Instagram and stuff that, like, in fact, a lot of comic book artists are using Procreate right now, and now they have another version of what is it? Used to be Manga Studios called Clips Studio now.
I used Manga for a while, but my problem with Manga is I hate the pencil program, but I love their inks.
The newer, the ink's amazing. Yeah, I love that. But the newer programs that I've downloaded for my tablet, they're a lot like Procreate now, and it's a lot more fluid. It's not, the pencil doesn't feel like you're just like, it it doesn't beat the visceral part of like actually having a pencil to paper, but they are starting to make screen protectors that feel like real paper, and it reacts the same way.
Yeah, it's really funny you bring that up because like one of the most embarrassing moments of my life was I was sitting down doing a pencil for a storyboard for a movie, and I needed to erase something, so I flipped the pen over because the stylus, actually, the back of the stylus has when you put it on backwards, it's an eraser.
Right, you got the
And yeah, so I was drawing something like crap, so I went and I flipped it over and started erasing it, and then I did the classic brushing.
You're like, afterward, nothing there.
Mid swipe, I stopped, and then I just turned to my left to see if my daughter and my girlfriend was watching, and both of them were like looking at me smiling, and I went, damn it.
I know.
They saw me do a boner.
The craziest thing is like I'll switch back because we've got like a light table. This is me and Bob's graphic studio where we create a lot of the artwork for GWAR, and we've got a light table over there, and I'll draw stuff and transfer to Bristol or whatever, and I'm sitting there and on Procreate, you able to enlarge. You got your pen and you got your other hand, and you can do this motion where you zoom in or zoom out.
Right.
And I'm sitting there on the piece of paper, and I'm like, just doing it to the piece of paper.
You're doing the opposite, yeah.
Like, no, it's real world, back to real world.
Yeah, because I'll do a Control-Z to undo something.
Oh,
drawing on paper.
That's tap, and I did that a couple times too, where you tap the screen. I'm like,
yeah, because like for me, it's Control-Z, and I'll go tap tap, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You're drawing on paper, you idiot.
Yeah, your brain gets caught in that like repetitive motion, Like, oh man,
it gets trained.
I mean, I feel like the thing I always talk about with young artists who are up and coming, I was like, you need to learn both techniques. You can't just rely on all digital, because there's people that I know that I've met that just like, I've done all digital artwork ever, and I'm like, man, what happens if you want to create something? You don't have your device. You don't have, you don't have what you need. It's like pencil and paper. You can find that pretty much anywhere, and it also is good to learn your craft as much as you can. So learn all of it, not just rely on one platform. And it's not as limiting. I look at like painters like Bisley, who you try to do that stuff. You can get good quality stuff from digital, but there's something about having the paint to canvas or Bristol that it's really hard to emulate. Like, it's very hard to do that digitally. And I find that richness of actually having the physical piece is just like, it's nice,
Yeah, and I kind of miss sometimes when I paint with real paint on cold press illustration board.
Right.
How it absorbs and has that rough texture.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw some stuff up here real quick. That's one of your pieces there.
Yeah, that's an older one.
And let's go here.
Yeah.
And that's some pen and ink right there.
Yeah, that's on illustration board.
Yeah, like that. And this is you use Blue Line.
That's from Clip Studio. That was try to show work in progress of like a layout. And initially that was I think we did that one as a pitch to, in fact, it was Dark Horse. We were pitching to Dark Horse to.
Oh yeah, you told me about that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to do like get a graphic novel mythos telling of the whole band. Like, I've been working on that for a while now to try to just have one trade where you can basically, here's the entire history of GWAR, that you can be introduced to GWAR and not have to really, dig around and find all the information.
Yeah, it's like I was talking to somebody about dealing with Dark Horse, and what was your experience like with them?
They're really nice. I mean, the thing that we've had, we're always like in-house, and we've always tried to control everything and be like, we're gonna write the story, and if we can, we're gonna do the artwork, yada yada yada. And initially, those guys definitely wanted to just, we're gonna put some story guys with you and some artists with you, and yada, there was a lot of that. But they were very nice about it, and we just kind of like, yeah, that's a sticker I just did for Sawborg.
Sawborg.
Yeah, Sawborg Destructo. There's some of my custom covers.
You want me to zoom in on those?
Oh no, that was just some of the that's just a marker. That's a one of a kind cover.
Yeah, because I remember posting these on my page. When
Yeah,
you posted them.
yeah. Thank you, by the way.
Oh, of course, buddy.
And
I love that one.
Yeah,
that's
those
so
are trying to do different things for each character. That one was actually from the newer graphic novel. We were talking about that, doing a live chat on the Facebook page. Yeah, there's a panel and some more. Yeah, so that's a panel from the new book before it got colored. Obviously.
I love the work on this.
Thank you.
So good.
Yeah, it was fun because like normally I'm so under the gun because we do, the artists of GWAR do so much fabrication that when we get into full work cycle, it's tough. It's like doing comics, doing the artwork.
Oh, somebody get a little zipatone there.
Yeah, that's from the 90s, that one. That one was the bad guy at the time, Skullhead Face. And
that kind of reminds me of Dr. Big Brain from Detective Nobody.
Yeah, it was funny because it was a character that I had taken from him to make another character, and Don sort of took that as, yeah, that's our bar. That's the GWAR bar.
I just love the expression because I've been, that is in my head for life.
Yeah.
That expression because you make that face so much.
All the time, yeah. That black and white one.
Oh, wow. You would stand the man.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was great to meet him. It was he was like, maybe I'll get you to sing a song, young man. It's like,
look at all this shit. This is so cool.
Yeah, so that's Hunter right over there, up in the if you go
shit.
back a little bit.
Oh shit. Hold on. No.
Yeah, that's my Tron jacket.
Holy crap, you kind of remind me of your dad there.
Yep. That was at the 930 Club at DC. That's the backstage area.
What is this?
That's some of my touring contingent. That's our guitar player, Mike Dirks, on the I guess that'd be left, and then our tour manager's a guy in the middle there. There's me, and then there was our lighting guy at the time.
Oh shit. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
We just decapitated a fan, and his blood's going into the crowd.
That is so messed up.
Yeah, that's there's some of our carotid stuff.
Oh, check this out, you in costume.
So that's a company that me and Bob started that we're doing haunted house monsters. So you can see back in behind me, that's its head. It's called Hellspawn, and it was a demon that was created as a, when you go to a haunted house and there's a line, basically they, these characters would herd the line into the haunted house. Yeah, that's a miniature of our temple in Antarctica where we're shooting green screen.
That is so cool, dude. What on earth is that?
That is my conjoined twin. So it's a latex doll, and I had this idea of doing cute, gory things for a while, and that was my first.
Well, I was talking about you the other day. I said I'd never heard of a squat figure until I became friends with Matt Maguire.
Yeah, right.
And he was like really into squat figures. And I think that fits right into that category.
Yeah, it's you could see like there's a production line of them picture down there too.
Yep, there they are.
And I was experiment with different colors. Somebody wanted a purple one. And I was taking orders for these years ago, but I kind of, yeah, that was like 2010. Jesus.
It's sort of like showing this picture. I just want to say, you got to do what you love.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, you can see some of the production. That's us doing a silicone mold for a new odorous mask at the time. So
a lot of people don't know what that is, but I've actually worked with silicone, and you got to put it on one layer at a time, and it has to air dry, and then you do it again, and then air dry it, and then it's a pain.
It is
but the detail you get with it is amazing.
And you can also cross over with material usage in the mold, so it's very efficient way to mold stuff. That's me and Don Draculich. He plays Sleazy P in GWAR, and he also plays another Destructo, which is a clan brother of Solborg Destructo.
Up again, I see a bit of your dad in that face right there.
I can't even remember what festival that is. So many festivals.
So many photos. Oh, I love this one. Look at this. This is cool.
Yeah, that was an ad I did for the Friends thing.
That is so cool.
That was I
like that photo, and that was actually, there was a version of that was on your website for a while too.
Yep, that was a photo shoot I did with my friend Messi.
And disembodied leg.
Well, that actually is funny because that one was for the History Channel. We actually built a GWAR effect for a Civil War. It was a documentary about the Civil War, and they were doing the amputation. So it actually had the bone, so you could chop into the leg and do the bone, and then we had a blood tube in it so that they could squeeze it when they were filming the dude getting his leg sawed off. It was like that was the prop they used.
That is so cool, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I saw GWAR, that's sort of what I saw.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the fuck are you getting to? What?
There's a high school picture there.
Oh my God, that is you back in the day.
Yep.
Now, I want you to confess to something right here on the show.
Oh, no.
And let's see if you get your high school diploma taken back, because you used my short story, What's Under the Bed, to pass your final grade for English.
Yeah.
Creative writing, I think it was.
I think that's what I don't recall. I plead the fifth.
You were like, hey, Gib, I don't have enough time to get a story written. Could I use your story? Like, fuck it. Yeah, go ahead. And I still plan to do that. Maybe that's what we can do together, because we both have that connective thing, is turn that into either a comic or a live action film.
Yeah.
And my God, it was a funny story, because it came from a real nightmare I had, which is why it was so cool. These are great photos, man.
Thanks.
Oh shit, somebody looks like Phil Collins. Someone looks like Phil Collins. Wonder who it is.
Oh, look at that picture. Jesus. I haven't even looked at these pictures in forever.
I like that one. That's typical Matt right there. And this one I saw on your website too. That's the one I remember.
That was at my brother's wedding.
Is that from it? Really?
Yeah, so my friend was like, you look like what's the agent from The Matrix? Mr.
Agent Smith.
Yeah.
Agent Smith.
Yeah, he's like, you should do something like that. She was like, you look like him, you should do something like that. That was at a convention. My friend Megan was dressed as Poison Ivy.
She's a cutie patootie. That's awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to close that window down. Well, I think we pretty much talked for over an hour, about an hour and 40 minutes. I I mean, I didn't start recording until because I realized, well, I think it's just going to be you and me. And so I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to start recording.
Maybe next time we get everybody in.
Well, I want to have you on again.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you want to promote right now?
Well, right now we're actually in the middle of our sales for our coronavirus into the world sale just ended today, and tomorrow there's going to be an exclusive comic book shirt, print-on-demand shirts, bundled with this new graphic novel right here, The Enormogantic Fail. So this will be with shirts with artwork from the other books, and you can get a pretty good deal. You get the book and a shirt. That'll be on sale tomorrow.
What is the address for that?
That's at Indie Merch. In fact, it's let me double check because they just sent me all.
Yeah, just send it to me in a message. I'll copy and paste it and put it on the screen here.
Right on. Let's see. Yeah, it's GWAR-store.com is where you'd want to go to get your cool
store.com.
Yep, your cool GWAR stuff.
http://
Unfortunately, the coronavirus has slowed down our release of our card game.
Is that the correct address?
Let's see. Yes, GWAR-store.com. That is it right there. That's where you want to go.
So if you want to go pick up that graphic novel and get the shirt with it, how much is that going for?
I think we're doing $30 for the whole bundle.
That's pretty good because most graphic novels are $20.
Yep.
And which is, a solid price for a graphic novel. How many pages is it?
That one's 100 and I think it came out to 100 and it's 100 plus pages. It's
because the standard price for 100 to 104 page graphic novel is $19.95. I learned networking for IDW.
Yeah, and this one's pretty good because this one is an explanation of why GWAR is on Earth. This is the blunder. This is the screw up that has sent them to Earth. So it explains that.
Matt, do you have your fan site set up yet, or are you still under construction?
I'm still working on that.
Let's see. The first time I asked you about that was in 2002, and that was 18 years ago. You've been working on that site.
I had a website. In fact, I wish I could turn my computer around because I have the header for it right there. And it went to, I think it made it to 2010. And then I started doing my own stuff I started my other company. I started doing stuff on Shopify. So it's been this, like, how do I get myself to do personal stuff in between all that? So not trying to make it a bunch of excuses, but yes. I'm in the process of ramping up all that stuff again. I'm going to create my own Shopify store and my own web page for, directing all that traffic around, because my Instagram page for Subborg Destructo and unfortunately my Facebook page is a little, but the Instagram pages, I'm posting up things pretty much every day now. So new content, artwork in process, sculptures in process, things like that. They're all over Instagram.
When you post on Facebook, tag me.
Okay.
That way I'll know to repost it on my page.
Oh, that'd be
I'll
great.
also post it on our, even though we're called Pop Culture Minefield, our Facebook page is Dangerous Nerds, because that's that's how it got started, because it was a bunch of nerds that were military vets. Nice. And then I started accepting people that just support the military. And which, of course, your dad, is a huge inspiration for me when I was younger. Going into the military myself, I'm like, I hope I'm as much a badass as his dad was.
Man, he's like 72, and he's like freaking still. He's a beast. Like, we're at the gym doing stuff, and he's like, it's like.
Are they on Facebook? Are your parents on Facebook?
No. My mom is scared of this.
I wanted to say hi to your dad so badly.
Oh yeah, no. I actually told him that I was talking to you again. They said hello.
I would really like to say hi to him again sometime. So we need to talk.
Well, next time I'm there, I'll have to
get him Skype on the phone with you so I can talk.
We can Skype or we can FaceTime or something.
Because I really want him to know that when I went into the military, I wanted to go Marines first, but I found out.
Hoorah.
I found out that Marines don't have their own medics.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right?
You have to join the Navy, and if you join the Navy and become a hospital corpsman in the Navy, you're not guaranteed to go to a Marine unit. You may end up in a naval hospital, and I'm like, I really don't want to be in the Navy. So, no, I'm not disparaging the Navy. It's just not my thing.
Right.
And I became an Army combat medic.
Nice.
And but he inspired me to want to join the military. And
he just retired. Like he retired the Marine Corps. Oh geez, so he basically was doing the same job, still working for the military.
Right.
He just retired from that 6 months ago. Not even that.
Well, I'll wrap it up here, buddy. But
yeah, it was amazing talking to you.
It's not the last time we're going to do the show. I want to get you back on again. Especially anytime you want to sell something, but I'd like to just get you on it because I like shooting the breeze with you.
Yeah, man, it was great.
Mean, you and I used to just hang around and talk this shit all the time, and I'd like to get back. I would like to really talk more about comics, but I needed to keep moving into other stuff. But that's once again more reason to get you on here because I think you see things the way I see it with the industry.
Yeah,
and we need to do a comic book, and I think Detective Noti needs to be the first thing we do.
That'd be fun.
And maybe that what's under the bed should be the next thing we do. And you completely draw it. I'll write it.
And
I'll do
not that fast.
I'll do the inks. And I'll do the letter. I'll do all the hard labor work. Do this. Just pencil it out, and I'll get the rest done, and we'll go kick some ass. And hell, if you do tighten the pencils, I always tell people don't even bother inking.
You're right. Yeah.
I've done that where my pencils, or Bonk has done it. Oh my God, Richard Bonk, my God, sometimes he'll throw down some pencils, and I'm like, I didn't even want to ink this. It's like this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
If I ink this, it's going to ruin it. Or as Stewie would say, ruin it, Brian. Ruin it. Anyway, buddy, it's good talking to you. Thanks for coming on, man. And I'll talk to you real soon. And please, the next time you talk to your mom and dad, say hi to them again for me because I always think about you guys. I always think about them.
Hell yeah, man.
All right, brother. Take care and live long and prosper.
Oh, yeah. Cool.